Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Roll call
Davis,
here.
Councilman Mike Cooley,
Here.
Councilwoman Kathy Beck. Here. Councilman Jerry Flutie,
Here.
Councilman Jacob Flutie.
Okay. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda? Any
Yep.
questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from last meeting. And everybody had a chance to look over those. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Changes to be made? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to the financial approval of the bills. We had deposits in the amount of $507,931.11. Accounts payable in the amount of $122,421.40. Transmittals in the amount of $51,722.70. And payroll in the amount of $39,372.85. Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the financial report and pay the bill?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Second. A second.
You forgot to second.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Move on to correspondence. Before we get there, I want to acknowledge, I want to welcome Commissioner Jones, Sheriff Bakken, two of our individuals from the new fire district, Corey Noon, Pat Walliser, and the chief of police from encampment. So, welcome. Now we'll move on to correspondence. Valley Village Open House.
Village Open House, it's Friday, January 19th, from 6 to 8.
Okay.
And the Wyoming Community Gas. As business development manager for Wyoming Community Gas, I wanted to reach out to let you know that your city, your town is a member of the Wyoming Community Gas Joint Powers Board. As a member of the community, you are responsible for designating at least 2 people to serve on the voting board as members of the Wyoming Community Gas. These board members will be expected to attend the quarterly board meetings, either in person or by phone if possible. Over the last few years, we have seen the number of member communities sending representatives to the board decline, and I believe a large part of that is due to new staffing. To increase participation, I'm asking that you fill out the attached application for selection no later than Thursday, January 25th. Each board member can either be elected or appointed.
Okay. Do I have any volunteers? Yeah. It's just a quarter. There'd only be like 4 meetings in a year. Mr.
Don't
Fleet.
look at me.
I guess I'm gonna have to appoint somebody, huh? Okay,
I'll volunteer.
will you?
Sure.
Okay, Mike? Oh, come on, you can handle one. You're only on one.
No, I'm on a couple.
I'll do it.
Well, we'll have one. Kathy volunteered, and she'll be on it. We'll at least have one. Okay,
That's all.
all right. Anything else from community gas on that? Okay. Items from the public. It looks like we have a special events application from for the, what's it called? The Low Water Winter Jam.
Good evening.
Lighten us.
So we would love to utilize the old theater space that used to be the bottle bar that's right next to Union Wireless. And throw a little bit of a winter music concert. We're kind of wanting it to be more in the theme of like dance hall night. So we're going for kind of country rock type music and we want it to be family friendly. High schoolers want to come down and practice their Western swing dancing. We're, encourage that. I don't know if we actually need an event permit for it because it's an indoor event, but we would like to have a off-premise liquor license for the evening. The malt will be doing alcohol. So we'll, Danny's tip certified, so he's allowed to serve on site and then.
So basically, you're gonna have to have well, not really an open container. Are you gonna allow it outside?
No,
Okay.
but obviously we'd like to, give
Okay,
Chief Morris a heads up that'll be happening. The whoever's on duty can swing through and make sure we're not getting too rowdy, but
you had a chance to review it, Mike?
I just submitted it this morning. My apologies on the tardiness.
Uh,
I think we're aiming maybe about
any questions about it? Emery, you haven't seen it either.
like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're thinking about hosting some kind of swing dancing lessons and then music starts at 5 and goes probably till about 10-ish. And then an hour of sleep, I would imagine. So that's kind of a approximate time.
And who do you get the theater from?
The person who owns it is named Daniel Jones. He purchased it last year. He's out of Rollins. I think he works at Sinclair. And so Danny's been in communication with him about using the space. And then we would pull our own event insurance through the malt to cover insurance on the building for the event. So we wouldn't be using his.
Oh, I see. Mhm.
Is it family friendly, Nicole?
Yes.
Oh, I see that. Food, are you serving food?
We might do like small snacks, popcorn or something like that.
Okay. But not selling food, small snacks?
Well, I see two ways we can handle this. We can wait until the next meeting to say yay or nay, give these guys a chance to review it. Or we can do a vote on it and go ahead and pass it as long as everybody that signs off on it doesn't have any issues. However, the council wants to sit. Looks like we need planning and zoning, which I have to have
They're
Nancy
tough,
sign
they're
off
tough
on
to
that.
track down.
DPW, police chief, fire chief, planning commission, and town council.
But I don't know, is the special events permit required with the liquor license? I didn't know if I needed both or just the liquor license.
That's wishy-washy because it says over 50 people on public property, correct, Kimberly?
Well, it's not really public profit, it's
I
private.
know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say it's a little more. Some of it.
Yeah. We went through it today,
Yeah,
so,
it is sort of unclear.
and it's not a. But, and then Mike can just approve the liquor license.
Yeah. I'd make the motion to approve the application so they can start advertising and then we can let everybody, all the departments have to look at it. And then if they have any concerns, we can circle back.
Reach out.
And there wouldn't be really any difference if we pass that events permit. I mean, that covers it.
Not really.
Honestly.
Yeah. We got most of the department heads here. Police chief, you got any, fire chief, do you have any concerns about it? Yeah, no, we have all the department heads here. So I got a motion on the floor to go ahead and pass this special events permit. Is that a second?
I'll second Kathy's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
all right, thank you.
all right. Okay, we'll move on to, well, first of all, does the council, anybody have any comments to make it stop? Stand reserve. Okay, we'll move on to reports from departments. And when we appointed and designated newspapers and appointments last year, we didn't make them for the term. I didn't make them for my term of office, so I have to go through and we have to reappoint everything again, and I'm gonna try to speed this up. Could I get a motion to designate the official newspaper as the Saratoga Sun and the official depository as the Rollins National Bank?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I want to reappoint Kylie Waldrop as the town attorney. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the next four I'm gonna do all together. The appointment of the municipal judge, which is Dan Massey. The chief of police is Mike Morris. The town treasurer is Karina Daly. And the town clerk is Jennifer Anderson. And I would like this appointment to be made for the term of my tenure as mayor, which is basically 3 more years. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that took care of that. Move on to have an invoice from Wyoming Eagle. Never Forget Park, and it was for advertisement to go to bid. That invoice is in the amount of sure.
$2,074.71.
Is there any questions on that invoice? This will come out of the Never Forget Park Fund, so I have a motion to go ahead and approve and pay this bill.
I'll make a motion.
Got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're gonna move on to the treasury report, and since we're halfway through the budget year, ask Karina to come up, and what she's gonna propose or tell us about is budget, each department, whether they're in a crisis or what percent they're into their budget. So, Ms. Please.
Okay. Things are looking good. We're doing all right. We're getting more deposits in than we projected that we'd be getting in. And so that's a big plus. With our WyoStar accounts, we're making 4.425% interest. We're doing really well with those. And so our Never Forget part is sitting at 184,904.55. The sewer fund is sitting at 628,172.56.
Question,
Yes,
do they have some in reserve too, don't they? In the WildStar account? Yes.
that is. Mhm.
Okay,
Yes. Then the water has a separate one also, and they are sitting at 579,686.58. And then there's also another water account that's just for the water tank that they were saving for. And that one sits at 217,655.00. The Weed and Pest also has a separate account, and they are sitting at $248,071.54. And the pest fund has got another separate account. And that is sitting at $12,507.27. the Bridge Street project that was going on, they had a separate account for that as well. And that is sitting at 137,843.58. And then the Gateway West impact is sitting at 1,599,612.39. The ARPA grant has an account and that's sitting at 294,149.29. The TBEF impact fund has an account and that is sitting at 149,840.79. Then the airport has a fund as well, and that is sitting at 214,149.27. Then the specific purpose tax has one, and that is sitting at $2,660,009.26. And then we just opened up a fire department account. It used to be a BMO, and we moved it over to WyoStar to get more interest. That was supposed to have been done. And so we did that and they're sitting at $42,878.21. So the interest is paying very well. So I would suggest any funds that we don't need to utilize right now, that we get moved over so we can make interest on them. One of them is making almost $10,000 a month on the interest. So yeah, so there's that for the WyoStar. And then for our tax income, for our property taxes, choke cherry, lodging, lottery, cigarette tax, all those are rolled into one and we're already at sitting at 69% as to what we projected. So we're already over half of what we thought we would be getting. So that's doing well. Our licenses and permits, we're already at 84% for the year that we projected we'd make. And then our intergovernmental, thank you, revenue. That's our reimbursement for the PVCC and our encampment dispatch and those Verizon, we're already sitting at 60% with that. So we're doing very well with that. For our rec department and our lake fees and the donations through the hot pool, we're already at 95% from what we projected we would be bringing in. So, and then our miscellaneous revenue, that's like fingerprints for the fire, for the PD, town hall miscellaneous, rent of the property that we have rented out. We're sitting at 27%. You know, it's a little bit lower, but we're still sitting, you know, things are a little bit lower. We had budgeted in there the master plan grant refunds and we haven't seen anything yet for that. So then if we move on for our expenditures, the community center is doing very well. We're at 49% with the expenditures, so we're not quite over half. That includes all the salaries, payroll benefits, all of that. For town hall, with all of ours, we're only sitting at 6%, 36% expenditures, so we're doing good there. For our planning commission, we're only at 14.9%, so almost 15. So we're doing good there. For the municipal court, we've only spent 29.5% of what we had thought we would. The police department, we are sitting at 45.5%. So we're still sitting okay in there. The fire department's doing very well at 27.8. And then the streets department is at 36.9%. Our swimming pool is at 36.8. And then our Hobo pool, we're sitting at 41%. Saratoga Lake is at 45.7. And then our parks is sitting at 23.5%. And then the rec department is also doing well at 39.3%. And then if we move on to the airport, they're doing well as well. with their revenues that they have brought in with their hangar fees, landing fees, gas. They're sitting at 68.3, so higher than we,
That's revenue.
that's the revenue. Yep. And then the expense side, we're sitting at 51.7%. And that is including the purchase of that. Wow, was it?
Oh, the new tractor.
Yeah, and that's included in there. So there's still. And then to the water and the sewer. With the water department, we're sitting at 35.2 in expenditures. With the revenue, sorry, I did that backwards. We're sitting at 56.9. Emery's done very well with the building permits and bringing in revenues with those. So that's good. And then with our sewer department, their revenues are sitting at 60.5% income, and then the expenditure side of that is they're at 28.4. So that is the breakdown of where we're standing.
Any questions?
Hey, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Karina.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to the police department. Mike?
Evening. Just a couple of preliminary things. First, we can probably go ahead and not really discuss the power phone thing tonight. I'll bring that up in here in just a minute, but the basic police department report was, it has been a really busy last couple of months. We have been met with several trials and tribulations, and I gotta tell you, the folks that employed at the police department right now are rock stars. There has been a lot of hours. There's been very few days off. We've worked holidays, we've worked nights, we've missed a lot of things, and these guys have just really went overboard trying and work for you and keep town of Saratoga safe. They have truly been rock stars. There may be some light at the end of the tunnel, a couple of different avenues. We've had several pretty high profile calls that we've dealt with. So it's been very busy. And my thanks to everybody over there that works for the police department. We had the last 2 weeks since our last council meeting, 131 calls for service. Some of those were like I say, kind of high profile cases. So there's been a lot of hours put in, and things are moving forward. The power phone will take off for right now. But one of the things I really kind of wanted to talk to you right now about tonight, and I've kind of danced around it a couple of times. But really the communication center, the dispatch center for the Saratoga Police Department, we're really at a crossroads. We're going to have to make some tough decisions coming. They've done a really good job over the years, getting radio equipment, kind of building the foundation. But one of the things that wasn't done and hasn't been done for a long time is really putting money back into dispatch itself. All of our equipment is pretty much outdated. We were able to secure some radios from the county, from the sheriff's department earlier. That's going to buy us some time. But we now have parts because that radio system was basically obsolete. So now we have parts to repair. The 911 system that we currently have right now is getting to the point where it's going to start being hard to service. The voice recorder that we've got in dispatch right now is becoming hard to service. All this equipment's old. The facility itself, I got called Saturday afternoon. I got called down to the police department. One of the dispatchers has simply plugged in a cell phone charger and it tripped a breaker. Just a cell phone charger. So there's a lot of upgrades that we're gonna have to make. So we're either going to have to go all in on trying to find the money and get the facility and the equipment, or we're going to have to look at alternatives. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you tonight about, is some of those alternatives. There's no decisions been made. you actually get to make some decisions, give me a little bit of direction where to go. I think over the course of the last few months, we've talked a little bit, I kind of keep throwing the figure out. Somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000 is what I project that it would probably take. There's no hard quotes or anything in here, but that's kind of a rough idea of what we think it would take with the going prices of stuff in order to kind of bring this up to snuff. So that's one issue that the police department is facing right now. The others is staffing. We've had a lot of conversations over the last several months actually on staffing. We are presently a 5-man department. We've got 5 positions that you've allotted us. 2 of those have gone unfilled. I haven't had a lot of interest in them. Some of the interest that I have had, I've quickly kicked to the curb. Some of it just didn't work out. We're in a little bit of the same boat in dispatch. We're down 1 full-time position right now. We've been able to get 1 full-time hired, so we've got 3 full-time people on staff. And we've been able to actually being a little bit flexible and folks really kind of seeing that there was a need. We've got 6 folks that have offered to do some part-time stuff for us too. So my goal is going forward, at least in the short term, is try to get the folks that have been working literally every day, try to get them some time. I'm burning them out, quite honestly. So trying to get that done. I guess nationally, regionally, even locally, as far as the county goes, that there's several things that are going in. We're all having trouble hiring in law enforcement, dispatchers, and in patrol positions for officers as well. There's a lot of factors that go into that. We've talked about some of those here. Housing is an issue. The cost of living right here in Saratoga is a little bit higher than some other areas of Carbon County. The nature of the job, workforces coming in, people are coming into the workforces now. There is actually, it's not appealing. It's a stressful job. Folks are not really, the new workforce is for fear of getting at anybody that might be looking for a job. But they're more in tune to the balance between work and home, with a little bit heavier weighted on the work side. And if you can't meet their demands in some respects, or at least the goals that they have, they're just not going to work. Money is certainly an issue. There's a lot of folks now that if you are in the position of hiring, if you look at our resume, and I've said this several times over the last few days, it used to be a red flag if you saw a number of jobs in the last couple of years. Now it's a norm. I've seen resumes that have had more jobs in the last 2 years than I've had in my lifetime. And it's just kind of the norm. So there's a variety of reasons that kind of lead us here tonight. But we're short officers and dispatchers. The Rollins Police Department, I spoke with Chief Ward today. They're down 5 officers right now. They're having a hard time getting applicants. St. Clair Police Department has had an open police officer's position for quite some time. Sheriff's Office, I think officer wise, they're doing okay, but I think down a dispatcher at this point. So we've got, on one hand, we've got looking at spending maybe up to $750,000 in just, making our facility and equipment, things like that up to snuff. The other one's staffing. So we've got some decisions to make. Do we spend that money and in 5 to 7 years from now, the equipment's going to be obsolete again? Or do we look at some of the other alternatives? I've had an opportunity to look at these situations outside of Saratoga for a long time. And one of the things that we're talking about doing is maybe combining some of our resources for a dispatch center. So that's kind of on the table for some discussion, I guess, or at least kind of throw it out there. Since it's twofold, I'm not sure if we were fully staffed and looked at looking at equipment costs and things like that. That's one thing, but we're truly one power bump or one illness away from not being able to keep the doors open 24/7. And I think that's one of the things myself, Lieutenant Moore, we've all sat in that dispatch chair over the last month, several hours, trying to keep the doors open. The Carbon County Sheriff's Office, we entered into an MOU in order to have somebody from a dispatcher from the county work here within our dispatch center. That MOU is running out the 19th. I think we can inch forward without the help of the sheriff's office on that regard, but short term, we can do it. Longer term, it's going to be a struggle. This has been something that has been talked about for years and years and years and years. I know the prior council, the prior chief, the prior sheriff had got together and kind of started coming up with some proposals. Depending on who you talk to, there's little different versions of why it didn't go any further than it did. Regardless, at this point, it really doesn't matter. But I think I threw out some figures before about what the past administration sheriff's office had been talking about. So we really need I think the catchphrase that we've thrown out over the course of the last few weeks is sustainable. I mean, is anything we're going to do, or are we going to be able to sustain it? Do we spend the money and we've got a state-of-the-art dispatch center, and then we don't have staffing, or vice versa? Can we sustain either one of those? We met this last week with several folks from different aspects of the county. The sheriff was there, Commissioner Ellis was there, Commissioner Moore was there, Chief Corey Noon from the Encampment Fire Department was there, Chief Walliser, Chief Shu, Mike Cooley, Jan Anderson was there, Staten Mosby. We were all there kind of, throwing these ideas around of what we can do. One of the ideas that came up is the possibility of us contracting with the sheriff's office for dispatch services. It's not something that I like. I think it might be the best idea going forward. I consider it a failure personally, not being able to find the staffing to begin with. It's just something I don't want to do. But do I think it might be the right thing to do? The answer is yes. I don't think it's something we could do in a very short period of time. I mean, there's a lot of logistics to work out, but I did want to throw these things out to you, and I asked these folks to come and talk to you just in case that you had any specific questions for them as well. But this is not going to be a popular decision if we decide not to, for a variety of reasons. I think one of the things is I've also been in Carbon County for a long time, and nobody likes to give stuff to Rollins. I think that there was a term, everybody was worried about their sandbox. I would like to think of it as a litter box, because I think that's what happens mostly in a sandbox. But it's some discussions that we desperately need to have going forward. I need some direction from you. My opinion at this point in time is, as much as I don't like the idea personally, I like having the hometown, the dispatch center here. I like having places for people to go. That I don't think can go away completely. I mean, there's still administrative things and stuff that need to be done. But that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, we're preliminarily looking at some figures and stuff going forward. So I guess unless you have any questions for me.
No, I would like to hear Commissioner Jones's thoughts on this.
Not my world.
That's your little one.
Sure, come with me.
She can do that, we can't.
I can truly, and you can't hear it very good back there in the back. Literally by statute in the makeup of county government, the county commissioners have no say in this. we are strictly moral support and financial to this gentleman's department. He is a fellow elected, the county sheriff. And so it's his decision to make and his world to work with yours. And so the capacity that the county commission serves is that fiscal agent to fund his department to do whatever he feels best to do, and strictly moral support. And personally, many years ago in the late 80s, early 90s, I sat at a dispatch console where you wrote it down on a pad and you had to do this to the mic to keep from getting shocked before you answered. It's a difficult job. There was aspects of it that was a little harder then than it is now. Technology has made this so that we literally can dispatch from somewhere else. You don't have to be sitting in the seat next door to know where 1022 West Main is, or out at the dog park is, and all the common vernacular places that we have in describing where someone's at. And technology helps that. The sheriff's office has that technology. We've invested, 3 years ago in new consoles. I think he's still working, getting that hooked up. Every time you buy some kind of new technology, there's some new little glitch or new somebody that you got to work with to get them to work perfectly. And so that's where we're at. And as turfy as I am, I'm a valley girl. I will always be a valley girl. And my sandbox was really invaded. Chief Shu, he gets a chuckle out of my sandbox. I got money in my sandbox I want back, but I may not see that. But we have all found throughout the county, and the county included, that we have to work together. We've seen that recently with our fire district. The county rode on the backs of the municipalities for years with fire service. Is there a better way to do it? Yeah, there's a better way to do it. It takes us paying for that better way. And we've had gentlemen like Mr. Noon and Mr. Walliser step up and try to figure that out. But we come together as a group. There's no Lone Ranger stuff anymore for a myriad of reasons, from the manpower to the money. There's a million reasons that we can't be as turfy as we used to be. We can still embrace our home areas, our hometowns, but for essential services, the health, safety, and welfare of our people, which you as elected and myself as an elected and the sheriff as an elected are responsible for. We have to think out of the box and different ways to do them. And I commend Chief Morris. This is tough. I worked with that gentleman, and he is a fine man, and he is doing this sincerely for the good of the people of this community. It is a tough decision, and I respect him for having the courage to step forward with a concept that lots of people are going to go, no, this will never work. But we have to think out of the box as elected officials, as citizens in this county, in all of these municipalities, work together. So that's my little rant and rave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. That was good.
So, Sheriff, how do you see this working?
So, first of all, I don't know how many hours Chief Morris and I have sat and racked our brains and tried to figure out how to resolve this problem, because what Saratoga Dispatch is experiencing is not unique to Saratoga. I'm currently down one dispatcher. The Rollins Police Department, I believe, is down 2 or 3 dispatchers, and we're just not getting any dispatch applicants. So, and I do want to touch on the fact that, I don't think anyone in any way sees this as a failure. I think this is kind of the natural progression of dispatch in rural communities. If we look at our neighboring counties, Albany, Sweetwater, Natrona, Converse, they've all gone to some semblance of a joint or combined dispatch operations center. Really, I think it's time for all of us to take a really long, hard, pragmatic look at where our dispatch capability is going to be as a county. Not today, not tomorrow, but for the next 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years. Where are we going to be and what do we need? right now, with the 3 dispatch entities throughout the county, we're essentially triplicating costs to the taxpayers. So as Commissioner Jones mentioned, we did buy new consoles for our dispatch center to the tune of $478,000. So that means that when a dispatch center needs a new console, that expense, it's basically being paid 3 times throughout the county from each dispatch center, Rollins, Saratoga, and the Carbon County Sheriff's Office. Is combining the perfect way to do things? I don't know. But at this point, we've truly come to a crossroads and need to look at the long-term sustainability for emergency communications in our county. We need people to answer the phone when someone dials 911, and we need people to be able to dispatch officers on the radio when bad things are happening. And as we found out, bad things still happen. And I would rather take the time now to prepare for the future instead of attempting to go day by day and then being forced to change when things are really bad and we're in a really tough spot. From a logistical standpoint, if we had to, we could dispatch for Saratoga tomorrow. Would it be perfect? No, but we could make it work using our conventional channels for the sheriff's office, such as Elk or Ryan Park or Blackhall. Same thing with the Encampment Police Department. The fire department mechanism is already in place. We could dispatch to fire tomorrow if we had to. In an ideal world, right now, we're waiting on the Saratoga Police Department's towers on the water tower, correct, from Comtech. And then Encampment Police Department's, same thing, their tower. The parts are already in place. Basically, that's just a waiting game at this point for the parts to be installed. Then we would be able to dispatch actually on their specific channels from our center in Rollins instead of using our sheriff's office conventional channels. As far as costs go, really, this isn't a money-making venture for anybody. Anytime you incorporate a whole division onto your current existing department, it creates more logistical headaches than anything. But I think we're all in the same boat that this is kind of the right thing to do for the right reason. Because what we're doing now, and it's not just Saratoga, it's not just Rollins, it's not just us. It's just not sustainable. When we look at that 3 to 5 year timeline, I've got half a dispatch that can retire within 1 to 3 years. And then I have half a dispatch that has 5 years or under on the job. So if that half that can retire all of a sudden decides to retire, we would be in a world of hurt as well. So we feel that at this point, consolidation is just going to make all of us that much stronger and help bolster, our communications countywide. We did briefly explore keeping Saratoga as almost a satellite dispatch center, which we both really liked. But the problem there is if you call it something different, we still can't staff it, and we would still have to pay upwards of $500,000 to fix it or to get it up to par. So it really wouldn't change any of the problems we're currently experiencing. We have 2 consoles in the Carbon County Sheriff's Office Dispatch Center currently, and that would allow us to dispatch Saratoga PD, Saratoga Fire, Encampment PD from our center in Rollins. I don't know if that answered your question specifically, but I kind of got on a roll there and kept going.
It does. What I would like to see myself is the cost. I would like to see, so we can compare. We have a little bit of an idea of what it's gonna take for us. I mean, but we need to nail that number down hard and kind of get a firm number from the county on what it's gonna cost to combine and go that route and what we think the yearly cost will be to maintain it. And of course, if you do have to replace equipment, how that gets divided up, and stuff like that. And that's what I would like to see before, you can make a sound decision. I mean, to me, this isn't something that's gonna happen in the next 2 council meetings, I don't think we can get prepared that fast, but and the public, the townspeople in Saratoga have a right to see why we're looking at this. And open up some hearings and stuff like that. That's how I feel about it. That's my opinion.
Say we decide to go that way, you're saying the problem isn't only here, you're gonna have the same problem. Then if you have the same problem and you're our dispatch, we're in the same boat we were before we went over to their system.
So I think
You're gonna be short people that are gonna retire, and these people that we got left over aren't gonna move to Rollins, you know, to have a job as a dispatcher, most likely. You know, for costs.
the biggest difference in negotiating that problem, if it does happen, is as the sheriff's office, we would have quite a bit more flexibility. If we're running 10 to 12 dispatchers versus 2 to 3 in Saratoga, you know, if you lose 1 or 2 dispatchers out of a 2 to 3 man department, you're pretty much non-functional.
Yeah,
Whereas if we lose 2 to 3 dispatchers out of that 10 dispatcher department, we can still function.
okay.
And really, and like Mike and I have talked about 100 times, I don't think there is a perfect answer to this situation. We're just both trying to look at what's best long-term, and I would be more than happy, and I know Mike would be too, we've talked about it, to have some community forums at the PVCC, just so people are aware of why we're doing it, what we're doing, and kind of how the mechanism would work if we do pursue it. As far as costs go, we're not seeking anything more than the funding to be able to onboard whatever staff you have. And then instead of duplicating technological expenses, that would just be absorbed by the county, since we're gonna be that dispatch center. So if a console goes down in Saratoga right now, Saratoga's on the hook for that. Whereas we just got new consoles in our dispatch center. We did give our old console units to the Saratoga Police Department, but they were already 5 years end of life when we gave them. So I think they're 6 years past end of life now.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, dispatch has turned into this pay-to-play system. That isn't fun for anyone, but I hope that answers your question on costs. We're not here to generate a revenue. We're just here to try and, I mean, we've identified the problem and we're just trying to come together to solve it.
well, and if we're all focusing more on 10 people, we can probably afford to pay them a little bit better and maybe keep a few more, or benefits or something.
Yeah, I don't know how our pay compares to the counties. Something we'd have to, you know. Everything has to be considered as how I look at it. I've seen this work in Sweetwater County and it worked well. And to my knowledge, it's still working well in Sweetwater County. They are very pleased with their centralized dispatch.
Yeah, we had two of our department members, one of our admin staff who's also a dispatcher, and then Officer Kristen. They both visited Sweetwater County Dispatch Center this previous week, and they were both pretty impressed on how it went. At this time, with just Saratoga and us, if it does happen, I think it'd be pretty small scale and pretty, I don't want to say easy, because nothing in this realm's ever easy. But I do think that, you know, the writing on the wall is there for a larger combined dispatch. You know, will it happen in my time? I don't know. But just based on the trends of all these other counties who are geographically diverse like us, they found it to be a pretty beneficial workaround. You know, like, and I'm just gonna keep bringing this point up. Mike and I have spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure out, you know, what the best way to do things. And really, this is kind of where we've come to. And in the future, will we combine with Rollins and have a full centralized dispatch? I don't know. I think it's quite early for that conversation. And again, that's largely up to Rollins. But if the current trend continues where each of us are short and each of us are not getting applications, there's going to be a point in time where something has to happen to ensure that we have emergency communications in our county.
Any questions for Sheriff Parker?
No, I appreciate the information and I appreciate all that you all are doing to provide us up-to-date info on this. And we don't want to have to react to a situation like this. We've talked about it, was brought up many months ago. We knew it was coming. So I do think that we need to continue to gather the right info and get it to the public and make a decision. So
I do too, Kathy. I'm in full. Yeah. It's almost a decision that's gonna have to be made somewhere down the line. I mean, kind of like Mike, am I totally 100% for it? No, but realistically, you know, it's something that could happen very easily, something that we have to do. And I'm sure you probably, you know, it's gonna be just more whether it is or not, you can look at it as, I'm taking on some more now. You know, I mean, it's just not like, oh, yeah, we can do that. That's a piece of cake. No, because you're.
Have a conversation.
Because I've sat with you and Mike before on this.
Yeah, and like I said, initially, in a perfect world, we wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Right.
You guys would be fully staffed, fully operational, and this wouldn't be an issue, but unfortunately, we are at the point where it is. And in our emergency assistance MOU that we've been utilizing, that does terminate on the 19th of January because we're short as well. So I've had a lot of dispatchers step up in a pretty big way, take on a lot of overtime to help Saratoga, and kudos to them. Unfortunately, it does come to this dichotomy of we do need to help, but at the same time, we can only help so long before we run our own dispatchers ragged. And right now, we're kind of at that uncomfortable crossroads.
Yeah.
So.
And moving forward, it seems like I mean, we need to work some stuff out, but it seems like the common sense about the best common sense solution to a problem that it's going to just continue on down. We're going to have problems forever, I think.
You're absolutely right, Mike. Where are we gonna come up with, you know, we've got his budget, which is over $1 million, and now all of a sudden we need to add on another $750,000 to $1 million worth of new equipment.
Yeah,
Where's that million gonna come from? You know,
yeah, it's,
And we still don't have staff.
and then we got a staff. Yeah, you're right, Kat.
And we surely appreciate what our staff does now.
Oh, yeah.
And if we get ahead of it, maybe potentially we can look at absorbing them in this centralized location or find something else for them, because we don't want to discount what they've done and what they contribute and our appreciation for that. So.
And that's the most delicate part of this. There's real people manning those phones and radios.
Yes.
And like I said earlier, we would just want to onboard all of Saratoga's full-time dispatchers. I know it's not perfect. I know they would have to commute, but that's how we would want to alleviate that situation because, I mean, they're doing a good job and we can use them. So.
And I think that's where the hardest part of this decision has always been, is what do we do with our people? Because they have been great.
Mhm.
You know, and thank God we've got some retired dispatchers that got out of the business, stepping up and working part-time for us. You know, that really makes it. But yeah, we've got to think of our people.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And the concept is not a surprise to the dispatchers. And these are conversations I've had with them. In fact, I had conversations today. Because this is, I think you heard me say before that my first reaction to this is circle the wagons and protect them. And I think in a way, that's what we're doing now as well. As I say, right now, I'm working to death. I'm worried about burnout. I'm worried about health issues, things like that, because they've stepped up in a huge way, but it's also detrimental to them as well. So I say just direction, I think, really, because unlike the sheriff, I am not an elected official where I can make decisions on that. I take direction from you. You're my elected body. So, but I guess at this point in time, not my feeling, thinking it through, I think that's probably the best solution right now when you take the pros and cons.
Well,
The feeling part of it is don't want to. You know, but I think it really, when you start weighing all the different aspects of it, I think it is probably the thing to do.
And when it comes down to it, we're here to do what is best for the people
yeah.
in Saratoga. And it just seems to me like this is the route to take.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask two people involved here too, is Pat Wallace, sir, what's your opinion on this? And just identify yourself, speak loudly.
Fire Chief Saratoga. I guess my opinion on it is, I feel the same way Mike does. I mean, I was born and raised here all my life, so it's always been nice to have a police department to walk into. When we have to go get reports after fire calls or whatever, it's nice to be able to just walk across the street and get it done. We had the meeting, on the dispatch deal the other day, and I guess the bottom line of it is if you don't have people to sit in the seats, you're not gonna have a dispatch center. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
I wanted to personally go to Rollins. No, I absolutely don't. I've been against it forever. I'm just like Sue. I'm pretty turfy about stuff around here. But, there again, it's just kind of come to the point that if we don't have the people to staff it, we don't have the people to staff it. If we don't have the upgraded or the updated equipment, we're gonna be struggling with that as well, so. I agree with Mike. I think it's probably the thing that needs to happen. I 100% in favor of it, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Chief Shu, do you have an opinion since you kind of rely upon us?
Kevin Shu, Chief Frank MPD. Corey and I have had talks about this. We've been currently waiting for some radio equipment that actually Friday wasn't here, but got here yesterday. So that's going to allow us, if we can't fire, to be able to talk to county and put some things in place. I'm with Mike, I hate to see it go because I like being able to call up on the call and go, hey, to Paul's house. Everybody knows where I'm at, And the reality is, it's just not working. And we got new dispatchers. They don't know who follows. It's kind of come to the same thing. And I hate to see it go to Rollins too, but we can't keep speeding. And we can keep them, and we're burning them out. And when I call in and I talk to them, I can get snapped at. And I've actually told them, you need a day off, their fault. What's that? It's not their fault. No. And I come in and I tell them, look, you need a day off. I stop and buy them something to drink on my way in. I need to walk my body. So they're working weeks on end and 12-hour shifts and stuff and bouncing around. They're wore out. And I don't see any other solution other than to spread the cost out, make it a little more effective for all of us involved. With the technology we have now, with the radios and everything else, we can actually GPS where someone's at and get it done. And it lights up on a map. We know where everybody is. So the dispatcher can go, hey, it's on Highway 7, without me having to do it. So I'm a man on an island down there. I depend on Mike a lot.
Yes.
He helps me out a lot. So I can't fault his dispatchers. I really can't, because they work their butts off. And we drive them absolutely crazy, and we are hard to get along with them. But it's difficult for them to sit in that chair, and it burns them out quick. I don't see any other option.
Thank you, sir. I was gonna ignore Corey, but
I'll tell you.
no, go ahead. You have to be everybody.
One thing I want the public to understand, is a lot of these calls, they're originating in Rollins as it is now. So the Rollins takes the call, 911 call, then it bounces down here. Well, in my experience, when you start bouncing these calls, you lose things. I mean, I'm not knocking any dispatcher on any end of it. But where the call doesn't come into Saratoga a lot of times, most of the time, any cell phone, correct, goes to Rollins PD, right? So they're getting their information secondhand. We're getting it third hand when we get paged out in the big picture. And when you don't have 3 departments vying for the same dispatcher and trying to hire the same dispatcher, there's gonna be a better chance you're gonna be able to hire somebody.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Davis,
Yes,
one more thought. I'm a psych major, as you know, so maybe we ought to look at this. It's different. This is county that we're talking about, Carbon County,
yes,
not Rollins.
not
Keep
Rollins,
saying-
Carbon
The
County.
Rollins. And so we Turfy Valley people, we're still part of the county and we're working with the county. And so we need to look at it differently and where we're at, and maybe the sheriff will even consider changing his call from Rollins SO to Carbon SO or something down the line. In there. And that's just a thought, because it truly is, it's emotion, it's feelings. This is serious to us.
Sure.
These are people that could be without a job if they choose not to go the direction that's offered. This is where we live. This is who we are. The same feelings are in Rollins with Rollins people. So that's where we need to become together as Carbon County people, trying to take care of each other in the capacities that we are each in to do that. And so that's my psych major.
It's a good point, Sue. Very,
deal
very
right
good
now.
point.
This
We
is
are Carbon
us and
County.
We're about all of us, however we have to do that.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion? I would like,
You look how hard it was for when the ambulance service went kind of county to Rollins. And it was a hard transition too, so.
yeah,
But
Well, and this isn't a takeover. I think
Yeah.
that was thrown around at one point in time or not.
It always
This is not a takeover. This is,
get back to this is Carbon County.
yeah, this is entities trying to come together for the good of everybody. I mean, there are gonna be some detrimental things that come out of this as well. I mean, there really are, but when you look at, I'm an old Boy Scout, the old good of the order thing, and really what we're looking about is what's good for everybody. And I'm a firm believer that as individuals, we have to make sacrifices for that good of the order. And I just, like I say, it's not something, and I'll just reiterate, I mean, it's not something that I have taken lightly, my opinion on this matter. I have lost a lot of sleep thinking about this.
Well,
And but it's just, I think it is the thing to do.
well, to keep things moving with the rest of the meeting, and I'm sure before anything's final, I will ask for a public hearing on this, before a final decision is made, even though just to listen, but to keep things moving, I suggest that we have Mike and Sheriff Bakken work together to come up and work towards kind of how this is gonna work. So when we do have a public hearing, hopefully within a month or so, we can line it out. This is how it's gonna work. This, all the equipment will be in place and we'll kind of know where we're going.
Cause I agree. I mean, this is gonna take a little bit of time to work out. There's a lot of little things that we're gonna have to
Well,
address.
I would suggest having him move forward and council and agreements, that,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then we'll see what you bring back to us.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, chief. Thanks everyone for their input.
yeah, thanks for
Coming down on this blustery day. So thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to a report from the fire department.
We're just happy you showed up today.
Yeah, me too. I'm tired of doing their report.
Sorry. Mr. Mayor, Council, mine's not gonna be nearly as long as Mr. Morris's is. Anyway, our stuff is pretty simple. I did get a call today from Wyoming Apparatus about engine 13 that is currently down in Green River. We received 2 bids from them, and I think the council has seen both bids. It's gonna be the worst of the 2, it sounds like.
How does it?
Of course. He's gonna talk to one of his machinists down there. He's got a machine shop that he deals with. He's gonna see if they'll do some work on the impeller. A lot of it's gonna depend on liability, as everything seems to be nowadays. So he's supposed to get back with me on that, but we're still looking somewhere around the tune of about 12 grand to get that truck fixed. So I was hoping that wasn't going to be the case, but told otherwise.
Well, my feelings on that is that's something we've got to pay for. We need that truck back in town.
Right.
It needs to be.
Well, and I think the money was budgeted or we've got the money for it as well. So, like.
So they're repairing it instead of replacing the pump? Is that what the deal is?
Yeah.
How much is a new pump?
It's considerably more expensive than this.
Yeah.
I'd have to get with Justin and find out for sure, but, and then just the availability of stuff. I mean, this stuff has been, he's had this stuff coming for months just in preparation of getting this done. So
Yeah.
I think he ordered this right after we had our pump testing done. So what's that been? 5-6 months now, something like that. So, so yeah, so that will be coming along. We had elections, this month. Not many changes there. I'm the chief again. Tom Westring is the assistant chief. Nick Terry is captain. We've got, Creed James and Rusty Arnold as lieutenants and Marco Zaragoza and Mr. Ryan Wells for training officers. We've gone back to our trainings every Wednesday night now. So that'll be continuing. And also, I think Karina Creed said that he got you the bid for the AC unit and it's in, but obviously there's no big hurry in getting that put in yet, so.
Don't think so, huh?
No, I wish. Really, I guess unless you guys have any questions for me, it's been pretty slow for us. We've had 3 calls, I believe. So that's about all I have.
Any questions for the fire chief?
Nope.
On these invoices, the Curtis invoice in the amount of $4,454, Karina. And then is this to install it?
That's total.
Huh?
That's total.
That's total.
That's the total? Then what's the Platte Valley heating?
That's the AC unit. The Platte Valley, they're 2 separate things,
Okay, all right.
2 separate.
Okay, you have a motion to pay the Curtis invoice in the amount of $4,454.66.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the Platte Valley Heating and Air Conditioning, which probably maybe in late April, early May, we'll look at getting that installed.
At least we can stand on the roof.
It's in the amount of $4,440.00. Do I have a motion to pay this invoice?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
We'll move on to the Recreation Department.
Good evening. A recap of our inaugural hockey tournament this past weekend. In fact, Sheriff Walken was out there skating amongst some of the other brave souls in the minus
Great fool.
weather. So, despite the weather, we had 31 players show up. We played 2 sets on Friday and I think 6 games on Saturday. So, it's a good turnout and they're already talking about what are we gonna do for next year. So, it's good event. The other item on the agenda that I need approval for, or I'm asking approval for, is an invoice for Mountain Film Company. This company is a film production company out of Telluride, and they kind of specialize in putting together kind of short films, adding music to them. This one in particular that we had interested in was focusing on kind of outdoor events like rafting and skiing and cross-country skiing and such. So we thought it might be something we could offer for the community in March. It's scheduled for March 8th from 6 to 8 p.m. It's on a Friday night. PVCC is hosting the event for us. And it will kind of focus on hopefully getting people inspired to get outside and do some summer and fun outdoor activities. So anyway, the bill is for $1,300. That includes their promotional material, the film, the soundtrack, et cetera. And I'd like to get approval to pay that.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, Kim brought this to the rec commission and we all had an opportunity to look at some of the various options that this organization offers and the presentation, it's really stunning visually and it's very appealing. The music and everything's really nice. So it's a great family friendly event for us to do to allow people to come down and use our facility and I think it would be a nice evening out for families in the community. So I'll make a motion to pay the invoice.
Any discussion? Do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You still on there, Jacob?
He fell asleep.
Oh. Okay. Anything else from the rec?
No, that's in my
Any questions for the rec? Okay, we'll move on to Department of Public Works, Planning Commission and the Joint Powers.
Dean. So first things first, I would want to, in following suit with Mike, I want to acknowledge my streets guys and the rest of my public works crew who got out and plowed everything this weekend. For a small rural community in Wyoming, them roads look really good. Holiday weekend, they were all out, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, getting things out of the way. As a reminder to the public, we do not plow driveways. If you leave your car on the side of the road, you will get snow in your boots walking to it. We provide snow removal for the travel ways and public spaces. When we get some time, areas that get a little thick on the intersections and stuff, we move with the loader. We'll move our piles. If we start removing on personal property, that opens up a customer base for why you plow Joe, why didn't you plow Susie?
They plowed mine and shoveled mine.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah.
How they get that?
I'll hear about that. That's just the reason why we do that. We provide removal for the travel ways. So once you get out of your driveway and you're on the road, you can get to the Come and Go for Pizza.
I'd like to, and I would like to add to that. First of all, I want to thank the guys. They did a fantastic job. The second thing is parking on the street. There is an ordinance against parking on the street and impeding this. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And so please, if all possible, do not park in the right of way. It really makes it difficult. Some of our streets are narrower than others and it creates an issue for these guys. And chances are, if it's really plugged off with traffic, that street's not gonna get plowed because we can't take the liability of tearing somebody's vehicle up on that street. So please do not park on it, or you may receive a letter from the town.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we're not gonna risk the property damage if it's in the way, so. And that was in the paper a few times and we'll keep advertising that. Please move your stuff from the street. So that on the plowing, still working on a lift station. We've got force main in. We had a pretty good week last week. We got it bedded. We got some of the vault coated. This week a little cold yesterday, but we'll keep plugging away on that. Get that finished. My bigger update, I'd like to spend my time on more there under that water sewer joint powers board with the well service. But if we move to item number 24, that dump truck proposal. So for the last few months, we've been trying to find a used dump truck, a non-CDL, something very similar to what we have, works well. You find one, they sell it the next day. We find one. It's a little more beat up than we want. So we finally just advertised for a new one. We only got one response, which I was a little surprised. They talked to 5 or 6 people on the phone who were pretty interested, but DTI was the only one who put one in. This is extremely similar to what we have. John likes it. The guys like driving it. I like the fact it's an automatic. It's a non-CDL. It opens up our deployment pool a little bit and having, 10 wheels with 13 speeds. So we would like to get this thing bought. They actually have it on the ground. We don't have to wait to get it built. All I gotta do is put the bed on it, which is pretty sweet, because right now build times are, it's kind of like, well, maybe next year, maybe 7 months, maybe, I don't know.
2 years.
Yeah, yeah. With, you know, you might get a letter in the mail just saying you're gonna get it. So we- Go ahead, Kathy.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, right? Does this price include getting it here?
So
Everything.
they'll bring it up out of Colorado. They just meet us in Cheyenne. So we take somebody over there and they bring it from there.
So part way.
Yeah.
Does it come with plow mounts and everything on it?
So I'm getting a quote right now, depending on what that cost is, we could revisit that, but I just want to get the truck. Cause the dealer is looking at a few different places to get where we could get that done at, but I want to get that truck hooked up before they decide to sell it.
No, it doesn't.
No, Jerry, it doesn't. Sorry.
To make a long story.
And they noted some of the deviations from spec, and those are not, well, tinted windshield, safety glass, spare tire. So we're looking at some expenditure down the road, a bit
Yeah,
for the tire, probably. It's been months that we've been pursuing this, right?
yeah.
I'll make the motion to make the purchase of.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you. Moving on to number 25. So this is our first invoice from EA for some design services for that bigger road project that we're doing. A lot of this billable time is doing some little sampling. A lot of it's measuring. Some site work, some front end contract work, and we had about a 5% on the total projects, about 75K. So it's about 12 out of that 75 is what we figured we'd probably spend on that.
is there any discussion, any questions on this invoice for the road? Do I have a motion to pay the invoice, $12,802.18?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay, go ahead, Emery.
Sorry, I was gonna say 26. I might have had that put on there accidentally. It's just we had an emergency routes map, streets map that we had a bigger print made up to hang up over at the shop. It shows where we start, where we end for some of the guys, newer guys is what that's for. Our big printer is not working, trying to get it going. But
You know, on this one, you can approve that one.
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's my bad. Is that
okay.
ended up on there.
Anything else from DPW?
The main one of the wells when we get down.
Yeah, when you get done water and sewer.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay. We'll move on to the Water and Sewer Joint Powers Board. Emery?
So 27, that's an additional invoice for this River Street project over here for the water line. We're probably hopefully having all the contract documents and everything done on that. I'm pretty wrapped up by like the end of next week. The 26 is kind of what we're shooting for. So we can review it and then start advertising shortly thereafter. Is the plan. Craig's got everything buttoned up. We went over some tiny details this last week, but that'll give us time to review it, still get it out fairly early. And then the idea is to have that road project out kind of in that same time frame, so people who are looking at that can look at that too.
Okay.
So.
Any questions on this invoice?
No, I'd just like to make a note that it's a reimbursement. So this is something that came from specific purpose tax, just so people know.
Right.
So I'll make a motion to pay the invoice.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to Watson Well Service.
So last week, we got all wrapped up servicing all 5 wells. Everything looked really good. The sand content out of the formations when we were pumping them was fairly minimal. We got to look at every well, how they performed when we're pumping them, what the drawdown looks like. Everything's pretty encouraging for them being in use as long as they have. Like, there was no big red flags. And well number 3, there was a report done in 2019 where they identified what they thought was 100 feet of sediment in well 3. There was none in there. actually. So there was a bridge of corrosion at about 298 feet that was basically just a bunch of barnacles with a little bit of sand on top of them. We went down through there, little air development, cleaned it right out, and then the well was pretty much clean the rest of the way down. So that was a big relief. Like that was stirring a lot of concern. That's the amount of sediment in 3. We don't know. Well 5 showed symptoms very similar to well 3. It wasn't closed all the way off, but same thing. 300 feet went down, cleaned right out. Jason from Watson didn't know kind of why. So we're kind of tickling our head as to why that corroded in that spot. As much, maybe something in the formation causing a little electrolysis or something like that. But as far as the screens, they look good. Most of the casing looked good. The pump pipe looked good. The pumps performed well. I don't think we're taxing the formation in any detrimental type of way with how we're pumping them or how much water we're pulling. And we have a really good baseline now moving forward. So we go do that again in 5 years, 6 years, we can really have we can replicate everything and see what the change in performance looks like. I'm working with Watson. Jason was great. Jason and the guys, that was a wonderful experience working with them. So we originally approved 75,000. When they got all done, we got a bill for 70,515.95. So it's actually $4,500 less than what we originally approved. And they did camera well 3, which wasn't originally part of the budget. So they were very honest with us, and there's a lot of contractors that wouldn't have done that. They would just bill us for the full 75 and call it a day. So I'm very appreciative of them, the work they did, and their fairness in invoicing us. So.
Do we need to approve this?
Yes, please.
Is there any questions on this invoice?
No, I'll make a motion to pay Watson Well Services invoice.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Only the whole world could be like those guys, huh? Don't work that way though.
Okay. Anything else from the Joint Powers Board?
One thing we discussed at the last meeting that would probably come up here in the future for us is how the fee structure is. They kind of discussed moving to you'd have a tap fee, then you have a connection fee, and then any new subdivision will probably have some kind of impact fee. They kind of talked about restructuring things a little bit. We came to a consensus of that's how, hey, that looks like a good way to move forward, but all the ordinance work and everything is going to come through us. So that's something we'll be looking at in the future. It's a pretty functional concept. I think it fits everybody's needs pretty well. It's a good balance.
Okay. Nothing else. We'll move on to the Planning Commission.
So these guys, Kevin and Chris, this is probably the number one thing under this topic is they're going to give us an update of where they're at on the transportation alternate master plan. And so I'll soak up their time.
Yeah, sure. And do you, that presentation, is that available? We have it on flash drive if that helps. Is that doable? Just to anchor us, right? You know?
Yeah, we fit it in the packet, right?
Yeah, it's in the back.
They all have it in the printout.
Oh, good.
It's printed.
Great. I don't have it in front of me, so.
Mine.
Oh, gee. Great. So if you're watching this meeting, you'll only be able to keep up. That's okay.
One of them.
When she pulls it up, it's caught up. So anyway, Chris Vogelsang with OV Consulting. I've been here a couple times before, and we were just in town was it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago with Planning Commission, Steering Committee. So it's great to see everybody again. What I'm here to talk about is the Saratoga Transportation Alternatives Master Plan. Give you an update on that, make sure we're all up to speed and tell you, where we're headed. So there's a little quick agenda slide that just, what we're going to talk about. I want to give you a project review. We haven't spoken, I don't think, since we talked about gathering inputs. I just want to give you a snippet of that. I'm happy to answer questions, talk about where we ended up with sort of preliminary recommendations to go forward with and what we're going to present at the public meeting tomorrow night. So just as a reminder,
this is something that McCall always tells me to talk about, which is why is planning important? I think we just heard why planning was important with dispatch and everything. Like thinking ahead is always a good idea. And it's really important that we talk to the community and find out what everybody's thinking and what their values and what's important to them as we think about decisions to make. So really that's the gist of it. And then, understanding needs, right? So budget and those things moving forward. As a reminder, for those of you that haven't interfaced since the last time, so the purpose of the plan is really about pedestrian and a little bit of bicycle, but like pedestrian mobility, pedestrian safety. How do we get around town? How do we create recreation opportunities and create safe spaces for people to walk and get around? So that's what it's about. And then the end of this, there'll be a plan that goes through planning commission. And there'll be a recommendation to council about approving that plan. That plan will outline steps forward. It won't commit the town to anything, but it'll outline, here's how we would do these projects if we decided to and we want to move forward. So that's the idea there. The next page you'd see there is a project schedule. So as a reminder, we're about halfway done, maybe a little more. We have our public meeting tomorrow night. After this, we move into more of a technical sort of aspect where the engineers and the planners get together and we start doing cost estimates, concepts and those things. So we have real detailed information to share. Where we are now is at the idea stage. So here are the things we want to focus on. The next one is, and I'm on, I think it says there's like a 111 at the bottom right, input summary sources. So we've been here since I think September is when we first came to town for the project. I was here earlier than that, kind of bopping around, checking things out. But we've talked with planning commission several times. We've had, I think, 2 steering committee meetings. We have another one on Thursday. Steering committee is a group of about 12 to 15 representatives of the public that meet and talk in detail about the project and recommendations and ideas. It's like our community sounding board. We've met with a bunch of stakeholders, including the school district, the schools themselves, community center, various folks to hear their input. A lot of community input that I'll talk about in a second. We had our public meeting number 1, which was what's the project about, what's important to you? And we had website and surveys. The next page talks about that a little bit. So I think a couple important things about the survey and the website. So the website actually got pretty decent traffic, I thought, for the size of the town and the type of project. We had almost 200 unique visitors to that site. So that means that some people came more than once, but it was 200 separate devices anyway that showed up. And we got nearly 50 surveys. The surveys were about, talking about what's important to you and how would you like to see the town move forward? 50 doesn't sound like a lot, but that's pretty decent. And when we couple that with our stakeholder interviews and our community input, we've also talked with, Kevin and I have been driving and walking around town for a few months now, and everybody we see, we say, hey, have you heard about this? What do you think about this? So we record that too. So that's good. So the summary at a high level, I just put some bullets here. I'm not going to read them all. But I'll just give you a sense. So people are into walking and driving. That's what the main focus is. There was a little bit of bicycle input, but really it was about how can we be safe? How can kids be safe? How can mobility challenge people get around town? How can my wife and I walk through downtown and go to lunch when I have my walker, that sort of thing. We heard a lot of that. 60% of the people that when we asked the question said they'd walk more if there were more safe places to walk, sidewalks and trails. The places you would think are places people want to walk, right? Post Office, Bridge Avenue, Veterans Island Park. And then we had kind of a funny one. There was some people think that walking's easy because the traffic volumes are so low, right? They don't need any special space. And other people were like, we don't like walking in the roadway. We think it's unsafe. And so it's kind of a diversity of opinion there. And then winter, of course, is an issue, right? I mean, we just talked about plowing and snow cover and everything. So that's something we noted. I don't know if we have an answer for winter yet. We'll work on that. Okay, so now that's what we heard. what did we do with what we heard? So we heard things about things that need fixing or could be better. We heard things about like policies or kind of community-wide things, wayfinding, driver feedback signs, those sort of things. And then there were a couple special areas that jumped out that we heard about, but are kind of big lifts, right? They are probably longer lead time and everything that we're talking about this plan and more complicated. So I'll talk about those at the end. And those would be things that we want to focus on as we go forward in a long-term way. The little pie chart that you're seeing there, that's kind of illustrates, we got 42 infrastructure project ideas from all our input and from walking around, looking at things. So we had quite a few ideas. Not all those ideas were ideas we thought should be attacked right away or were like top of the list. But in general, there were basically a third between recreation, which is kind of that green, a river, sorry, it's just green recreation, which is kind of that orange. And then the other, all those little isolations on top are really about safety. It's really about safety and crossing. Of those 42, there's a map on the next page just to give you a sense of the whole world that came out of that. So we mapped those ideas, and what you'll see in that map immediately and jumped out to us was some of those ideas aren't in Saratoga, or they're pretty far afield, or they're maybe redundant, right? But we wanted to represent all of them and show them. But the other thing you kind of pull out is there's a real focus kind of in that core part of Saratoga, near the river, near downtown, near Elm. And those were places that ended up being important to us. So we have 42 ideas. We can't do 42 ideas. That's too many. So what do we do? So we do what's called a screening process, and we did a 2-tiered screening process. We called it level 1 and level 2, pretty basic. Level 1 was really kind of a pass fail. Like, does this pass the smell test? Does this fit Saratoga? Is this even worth continuing and talking, moving forward into level 2? Of those, 33 of the 42 projects we thought were decent ideas that deserve further consideration. And 9 were ideas that we think probably aren't the best use of our time and energy and money up front. With those 33, we did a level 2 screening, and the kind of criteria we're talking about are there's some pretty practical criteria: cost, maintenance cost, leverageability, complexity. So can we do it? Do we even own the property? Is it something we have control over? Those sort of things. And then there's other criteria about, did it meet the community's desires, right? Did it match with what we heard? Does it tie to other things that are useful? So do they build on each other, or are they just like standalone things? And of that level 2 screening, we ended up with basically 11 infrastructure projects that we think have pretty good promise, that aren't too ambitious, we don't think, that respond to community input, that improve conditions significantly and that connect to each other. And the next page, you'll see a map that shows that. And I hope you all, your residents of Saratoga, I hope you saw that in your mailbox. Should have been a postcard that showed up that had this map on it as well. We presented this map at the last planning commission meeting, and Mayor Davis was there, and he said, yeah, I want everybody, let's make sure everybody sees this and what we're talking about, so we can generate some interest. So that map, you can see there's 3 really focus areas. Number 1 is Elm Avenue. So Elm is our school, our library corridor. There's a lot of focus there on traffic calming, on safety, on making it a safe space to be involved. As you know, right, there's no infrastructure for walking there now. You just kind of walk on the shoulder. We did see under the snow, we saw some panther paws. So those look new from the last time I was here. But we think that's an important corridor to focus on. So there's like an orange line and a couple dots. Those are spot improvements and corridor improvements. Highway 130 came up a lot and really was high on our list. We did have a meeting with Wyoming DOT. It was a couple weeks ago now. It was after the new year, just to talk with Ralph Topango, right? And his staff, and just talk about our project, what we're doing, kind of things we're finding, and that we'd love to collaborate and coordinate on 1:30 as things move forward. So that was really positive. That was a start. He asked that we keep him informed and that we work together moving forward on ideas. So that was great. 1:30 is really focused on two things, getting along across it safely in downtown. And then there's the idea of connecting the grocery store up at the top of the hill with downtown through a separated path. We're looking into the engineering feasibility of that. So that's where that is, but it was one of the top ideas that came out. And the last thing is recreation focus. So the Veterans Island Loop is something people walk today. We think it's a great community asset. People really liked it. They had some ideas, specific ideas for improvements that we're looking at moving forward, and also with wayfinding kind of things and making sure that that works. So that's kind of the world of infrastructure projects. There's 11 there that we think are really good at this point. So you may be expecting like, well, what does that look like? What does it cost? Show me a picture. That's the next steps. So that's part of what we do next. The first thing is like, are we on the right track? Does this make sense to the community? We're going to talk tomorrow night at public meetings. It makes sense to you all, and all that, and get feedback. The other two things I wanted to talk about was, so that's infrastructure. Those are physical things we do to make things better. There's also what we call programmatic projects. Think of those like policy or citywide things. And there's some there I really wanted to call out. So you guys have a few places where we tried some traffic calming. We have a driver feedback trailer, right, that we use on Elm or different places sometimes. We have some speed bumps in town, right, to try to get things slow. We've talked with Emery about maybe talking about a policy or some criteria about where those things are appropriate and how to invest those resources. So that would be a policy sort of thing that we'd work with planning, public works and safety. Targeted police enforcement on priority corridors. So we've heard a lot about Bridge, Elm, 130 as main places where we want to keep things safe, and trying to support the chief in terms of how he allocates resources and does that. And the other thing was, we had a nice discussion with about, they call them radar speed feedback signs, right? So they sent us their policy and procedure, but how to go about getting permission to do those. And so we're going to start working through that process. And we think that's a good idea. They were supportive. It's just more of a finding the funding thing, which we'll work on. Okay, so that's programmatic. And then there were two what we're calling monarch projects, like the Big 8 Point Bull Elk, right? It takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of courage, and but when you are successful, it's a big deal. So we identified two areas through public comment and things. So one is the old water treatment plant site. I know there's been discussion in council recently about like phase 1 environmentals, whatever, like, yeah, so you guys are investigating things. But we think that has a lot of potential, but it's not really ripe for recommendations yet. It really needs community input and some more information. But we think that's a great focus area for the town to maybe have a special discussion about what should we do with this or what can we do. So that's there. And then the other one, which won't surprise anybody, which is the hop pool. The hop pool area. So we have the community garden parcel to the south of the hop pool, and that's city-owned land, plus the hop pool, plus the boat ramp, plus the parking area, plus tied to Veterans Island Park. There's a lot going on. We have some specific recommendations about improving the connection, say, of the Veterans Island bridges and how that works with the hot pool. That would sort of build on a future plan. We think there's a master plan there of its own, a community conversation about how do we make this a community focus and a community asset. That's past sort of what we're studying with. So that would be a recommendation, like you should talk about this more. And then community meeting number 2. So tomorrow night, Platte Valley Community Center, 5:30 to 7:30. We talked a lot about family-friendly events tonight. So this is intended to be a family-friendly event. It's the middle of winter. We've tried to make it so there's great food. We've partnered with the Future Business Leaders of America out of the high school to have some students come down and provide activities for kids. We've hired the childcare center, not the director, but like the main lady that takes care of the kids there, helps with the kids. What's her name? Tatiana. Yeah, she's coming to like be sort of a certified, if they were real little kids. So we're gonna have kid activity. We've got things planned for that. We have people to help. We've got great food. We're gonna have presentation. We probably won't do the whole rockabilly like swing dancing, Western swing dancing, but we might, I don't know. Anyway, we're really looking forward to, we're really trying to make it an event that people feel comfortable coming, that it's a good use of their time, that they feel like their feedback is important and input, and it is. And then in order to do that, we sent direct mailers to every residential address in Saratoga. We put posters around town. We advertised in the Sun and the Comet, Chamber of Commerce, email blast, social media. We really tried to get the word out. So we hope that 2,000 people show up and it's great. But we really want people to come, and it's not that we're desperate for people to come, but we think it's going to be just a great event, and it really does matter. And we really care. So appreciate that. Next steps, public meeting tomorrow night. We are meeting with the steering committee the next day to have an immediate debrief on what did we hear and talk about direction forward. And then Kevin and I and the planning and engineering team will start developing specific stuff that'll look like engineering stuff, right? Like concept plans on aerials and dimensions and everything, and cost estimates, maintenance implications. You know, that was something we've been talking about a lot, about learning more about what equipment Emory has and how that would work and how your staffing works and those things. We're starting to do those things, and give the town a really good, robust decision-making information about these are the projects. Here's what it would take to do them. Here's steps 1 through 5 to do that. This is what it would cost, and leave you in great shape for the next steps. So that's all I have. I'm sorry it took too long and worth the end, but I'm happy to answer any questions or have a conversation. And tomorrow night, super happy to see you all.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any questions? None? Well, thank you very much.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. There's gonna be good food, yeah. So
Yeah.
please come.
And then you also have a meeting Thursday night.
And Thursday night, yeah, that's right. I didn't mention that. So Thursday night, the Lions have been kind enough to invite us to come and chat with them about this and get maybe it's folks that wouldn't necessarily come to our public meeting, but it's a few views and input we want. So we're gonna go to them, and they're nice enough to invite us.
Well, they reached a lot of people, kind of like the VSO. But it sounded like from the VSO meeting I went to that a lot of those people will be there.
Right.
We'll see. So we'll see where it goes. I hope you can get some more turnout, maybe some more input,
Yeah, that'd be great.
you know.
Yep, and we've updated the project, the website, Saratoga Moves. And that has a new survey out on it that's tied back to kind of the space of the
Oh, okay.
project and everything. And so we'll be talking about that, and we're really getting, you know, in-person and remote people. That was one of the big things when we talked up front. There's a lot of input where it's hard to get to a meeting, or maybe they're not here in the winter, those sort of things. So we want to hear from everybody, so. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you for your time, and I'll see.
Thank you very much for showing up.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have anything else on the planning and zoning? McCall? Do you? Okay, we'll move on. As I find my agenda. We'll move on to the Community Center Joint Powers Board.
Only thing is, we sent out the quarterly invoice to town. So that one's coming due with that 15,000. And then our next meeting is February 12th, 4:30 at the community center.
Okay. And then on this quarterly invoice, it's right here, it's $15,000, it's what we give them every quarter, 60,000 a year. So do I have a motion to pay this invoice in the amount of $15,000?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the Recreation Commission.
We've been working on 2024 events, looking at partnering opportunities. We're looking to be more present at the upcoming events that Kim has planned, basketball and things for the winter. We're still looking for 2 commission members if people are interested. And we always need volunteers for the recreation schedule, the calendar, the everyday involvement with things going on at the gym, any of the activities for the kids. So if you're interested in volunteer opportunities, please reach out to Kim. Next rec commission meeting is February 5th, 6 o'clock here.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the Saratoga Airport Advisory Board. And we have the lady here that takes the minute from that meeting. Would you give us a report?
You have.
And I will hand it to you.
I don't remember offhand. We talked about a few things. Sorry about that.
You ever have them memorized, Brenda?
My brain only holds so much anymore. It spits everything else out. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't very seldom get the call upon.
So Annie from Plain Base Passport talked to the board about using their company for taking care of landing fees. The board talked about it. And she said they charge between 10% and 30%. And the way they do it now, they don't have a fee. And Larry, who is the head of he runs the airport down there for the FBO. He said the way they do it now is working just fine. So for right now, they're not gonna use that. They're gonna stay with what they're doing now. They talked about a couple of items from the draft of the minimum standards about having businesses that do business at the airport fill out a business license, start having like the town does, to have some, so they can keep track of who's doing business at the airport. They talk some also still about the sewer at the airport. Talked a little bit about the aeronautics conference that they're having in September in Saratoga. They're hosting that here. Discuss the airport cameras and the company that's doing the work. They think it might be a problem with the firewall, but they're gonna come, diagnose it, see what's going on. They turned into grants for the master plan, so that can start going ahead. Let's see, what else was that? Barry gave his report about the landing fees. In December, they had the best December they've ever had in landing fees. They had $5,150 in landing fees. And for the year, they had $120,175. And they are increasing the revenues, and they project to have 10 to 15,000 more because they're increasing the price for the large and the heavy jets for landing fees. And then they discussed some for security at the airport, mostly for Conquistadors weekend, because I guess other airports have had security problems with eco-terrorism, and they were kind of worried and looking into for our airport. And that was about it.
Okay. Are there any questions for the airport? And their next meeting is February 12th, 2024 at 3 p.m. here at the town hall.
3:30.
Pardon?
Isn't it 3:30? It should be 3:30. Yep, 3:30. February 12th at 3:30 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, there's no other business there. We'll move on to South Central Wyoming Emergency Medical Board. And I don't see anybody here on this. We do have their quarterly ambulance service payment in the amount of $14,467 is due. Is there any questions on this? Do I have a motion to go ahead and pay the third quarter ambulance service payment?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second to that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? there any further business to be brought before this council? In that case, I will call for adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,